What's up, guys? A lot of people have been talking about this, and I want to start this video out by saying I've been a day one supporter of Undisputed since the ESPC days, and Still City Interactive has proven to be a company that knows how to deal with the community and knows how to build a community. This game has so much hype from maybe like 2023 to 2024. After the release date, things have just gone downhill, and now we're at the point where it's it's not quite radio silence, but in terms of the game, the development, the updates, the future, radio silence from Still City Interactive. So I wanted to talk about what happened to the developers of Undisputed. The communication drop off. One of the biggest frustrations in the community right now is how the communication slowed so dramatically over the last few updates. The studio used to post developmental roundtables, patch previews, fighter announcements, gameplay breakdowns. We used to get so much information on a regular basis from these guys. This created the feeling of an open development process. This gave the feeling of immersion in the development process and just made everybody feel like they had a part in what was going on. So, what changed? Fewer developmental posts, longer gaps between patches, limited explanations about future plans, and just current stability of the game. Why would they do this? Maybe there's, internal developmental shifts. Maybe there's hirings and firings going on. Maybe there's just no clear pathway to where they want to get to. Maybe there's marketing strategy changes where, I see recently they put Undisputed on PlayStation Plus. So now basically all you have to do is have your PS Plus and you can play the game. There's really no reason not to have at least given it a try at this point. So Undisputed is in a place where they're pretty much done promoting this game as the standard because let's be real. It's the only option if you're talking about a modern day boxing game. You can't really say that this sets the standard because there is another game on the market, or not on the market. There is another game that people prefer to play. Um, so I don't know, man. It's a weird place. This is the big update that changed everything. The large updates in 2025 were meant to push the game closer to a complete boxing sim and get it back closer to what we were promised. Now, we were supposed to get improved stamina and damage systems. The fight roster, we were supposed to get some more fighters. And they were supposed to adjust the online balance. There's a lot of cheating. There's a lot of glitching. There's a lot of just spamming going on. And there has to. This update was supposed to improve the punch tracking and hit detection to the point where it's noticeable. Now, the community reaction to this update was not well received. It was not a well received update. Some players liked the improvements, but others thought the gameplay became slower and less responsive. A lot of people are saying that the punch tracking has been worse since the last update. And because of that mixed reaction, maybe the developers have shifted to more internal testing instead of making public promises. Studios often go quiet after controversial updates because they have to reassess the direction they're taking and they have to reassess how to gain the confidence back of the community they built. The DLC strategy. Instead of constant gameplay patches, hot fixes, the studio seems to be more focused on content drops. Examples like this include, fighter packs, gear, arenas. Why does this matter? DLC generates revenue to continue the development of the game or the next game. Licensing real fighters is expensive. You have to get them into the game. It can also signal that the studio is trying to expand the brand beyond just the early access players and the players that we had upon release. But this has created a lot of controversy. A lot of the community implored them to fix the gameplay first. None of these new fighters really matter if they can't hit their target in a boxing game. Paid fighters made some fans feel like the priorities were wrong. I remember when they put in Jake Paul into the game, there was quite an uproar, which you expect with either one of the Paul brothers. You expect, public outrage right behind their name. But it was a big deal to see them putting in fighters that, without having fixed major issues in the game. It's always blown the community's mind. I can't speak for the community per se, but after months and months and months and years of being in the community and knowing what's being said about this game, I can pretty much get a good synopsis of how the community feels. Now, another theory is that the team shifted the focus, to distribution and partnerships. And you see, they partnered with PlayStation Plus, as I said before. And why does this matter? The console launches require certification. Bug fixing for platforms takes time. Marketing timelines sometimes prevent developers from talking publicly. So instead of all the weekly and monthly updates, maybe the team has been working on platform expansion behind the scenes, which we've seen right here. So maybe maybe we have a Game Pass thing coming soon. I don't know. Maybe maybe that's down the road. I see that this company, they have plenty to work on, man. It's so much that they can improve on this game if they just don't give up. Have they given up? I don't know. This could be the silent rework theory. A common theory in the community is that the studio is rebuilding parts of the game. Uh, some gameplay systems still feel a little unfinished. The balance issues between fighters are still there. Online desync complaints they've never ceased to exist or slow down. That's the main thing anybody will say you'll see in any form talking about this game is desync and punch and hit detection. If a studio decides to overhaul systems like physics, netcode, animations, it can take months of no visible updates, nothing to show for it. If they really have come across a solution, it's not going to be something they scream to the rooftops at this point. Studios sometimes stay silent because announcing fixes too early it can backfire, and sometimes your timelines can slip, and you already know people don't like waiting extra. And then there's the sequel theory. Another growing theory in the community is that the team may already be planning and working on the next step for the franchise. The possible scenarios are a major paid expansion of this game, a year two relaunch, or just a full sequel, maybe just a full Undisputed 2, or maybe they don't go with the numerical sequels. Maybe they do like an Undisputed uh, title run as a game title. I don't know. But the updates are getting a lot of slow. The updates are getting a lot slower, and more DLC fighters than gameplay changes have been happening lately. So maybe they're trying to grab some new audiences for the next game. If this theory is true, the silence may actually mean the team is building something bigger than what we already have. And then there's the budget reality. Sports simulation games are very expensive. That's why you don't see them popping up left and right. Not to this degree. The studio reportedly had to license fighters individually, build motion capture, use motion capture studios, and have those fighters, as many as they could, come in and develop a new boxing engine. They also had to maintain online servers through this whole process. Unlike EA sized studios, smaller teams have to prioritize revenue content, stability updates, long term improvements. The balancing act can slow visible progress. One thing I've said lately is that these guys have the money now. I don't care what you say. There's been plenty of money poured into this in comparison to actual small studios that they could have a lot of these things figured out by now if the resources were completely being allocated to problem solving. And this is where the community frustration lies. The quiet periods have created a lot of speculation online. Common complaints are the developers abandoned the game, they only release paid fighters, and we need a roadmap. But historically, with games like this, quiet doesn't always mean inactive. Sometimes it means the opposite. You know, maybe the studio is overhauling or preparing for a gameplay overhaul. Maybe they shifted focus to just grabbing what they could from this game and going to the next. It's hard to say, man. It's been a long road with this game, and I hope they don't just give up. I mean, at the end of the day, it's nothing else out there for us. Overhand Interactive seems like they're stalling out, or maybe they're going radio silent too. And the Fight Night revamp, Fight Night revival, that's cool, but it's still Fight Night Champion, and there's no getting around that. You can dress it up how you want, but at the end of the day, there's no online presence with those revamps and mods. Yes, there's a parsec and that you can get on a private server, but it's nothing like it could be if the game was actually coming out right now. So we don't have many options, man, and that's the saddest part about it is we are truly dependent on this company to figure it out. And if they're coming out with another game and that's what's going on, we want to know, man, because at the end of the day, yes, you will have haters that say, "Oh, you guys shouldn't put out another game," but you'll also have plenty of respect, plenty of support from people who just want people to keep trying. Like, come on, man. Don't give up. You come too far. And plus, you have all those fighters that you have not released to the public for some reason. We need those fighters, man. Um, Maybe they don't want to come be on this version of the game, and that could be understandable if the company's given up on this version of the game. But if they haven't given up on this version of the game, and there's nothing going on with an Undisputed 2 or a sequel, then you need to start leaking those fighters so people who have been on the game stay on the game, bro. Because you absolutely need a player count. You can't have 0 people on your server and then be talking about putting out an Undisputed 2. You have to continue to feed the people who still get on this game on a regular basis, because Jesus, they need to be rewarded. All right, guys, this has been Respect the Game. It's good to be back. Holla.